enforcement. And so we'll be running through that information. I'm sorry, it looks like we've got the wrong slides in here. I'm sorry about that. Most of what I was going to cover for you is in the.
Can you hit next one more? And keep going to the black. Okay.
Okay.
It's okay. Go
Sorry about that. So most of what I was going to cover for you tonight was included in the slides, but it's highlighted in your staff report. And what you can see from this is the data in the is included in the tables that are attached to the staff report, but they're summarized in the paragraphs included in the staff report. So basically, the overall takeaway from the report data would be that overall building inspection activity is down about 3% from last year, but is leveling out from the decreases we've seen over the last couple of years. Back to what some of the council may remember me talking in previous reports is we're really kind of returning to what was kind of the normal level activity. We had a significant spike in 22 and 23 that really were the result of the school district's activity in the community and all the things that they did and the investments in the schools, and the Lochner apartment building that occurred in that time period, and then also just kind of the post-COVID bump that all the world experienced in activity increases that were kind of pent up from the pandemic period. So while, again, activity is generally down, it's really leveling off in a trend. If we look at the data, even back like the last 16 years, we're still on a general overall increase in activity. Looking at code enforcement, we have seen some declines in code enforcement activity this year compared to last year. We would really attribute most of that decrease into the fact that we had a staffing turnover in the last quarter of this year. So we filled that position basically at the end of the year, and I would anticipate we're returning back to normal activities in 26. If you look at zoning activity, there actually was a slight increase, 7.5% compared to in 2025 compared to 2024. Most of that increase is in the category that's in the table, would be in the meetings and inquiries and kind of questions category of the zoning activity. So generally, I would say that that's the category in the zoning activity. That would be a leading indicator category that would say there's still a lot of activity, a lot of questions, a lot of things, projects that our people are either doing or planning to do. So I would say that that's a positive trend. And then looking at rental licensing activity, that breaks down into, if you look at overall numbers, we've broken it down into rental licenses for single-family homes or multi-family units. So that's really anything other than a single-family unit that could be rented. And if you look at those numbers for White Bear Lake, single-family amounts to about 78% of that activity, and multifamily is 22%. But keep in mind, multifamily, if you look at it on a unit comparison, the multifamilies would be the total unit count would be a lot higher. If you look at that activity in Matamidi, for example, they're at about 84% single-family licenses to 16% multifamily. And if you look at the breakdown of the rental licensing activity between the two communities that we work with, White Bear Lake and then Matamidi, we do about 78% of the activity is in White Bear Lake and 22% in Matamidi. And so that's a quick summary of the information in your staff report, and with that, I stand for questions.
We We might have a presentation if there are
Okay.
any charts you wanted to go over,
Okay.
or maybe not. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm sorry I don't have the slides available
It's all
to
right.
me. Again, the major takeaway is I feel like the building department activity and the number of permits and the revenue that's generated for that is, while declining, returning to what kind of our normal activity was and shows a long-term overall positive trend.
In the past, we haven't really touched on the rental in your presentation, so that's some new information we've started to include, and in the slides, I think you were going to talk a little bit more about Matamidi, so that's just not in this one, but looking for feedback, any ways that we can improve for the future. Thank you.
Yep. Councilmember Edberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Lindahl, with regard to that rental housing licensing and so forth, we had conversations about long versus short-term rental. Have we learned anything about that as a result of our, kind of this new annual processing and so forth? Or is that something that's yet to come in this year or a future year?
So I'd start by saying it is yet to come, but we have been doing research on that. We've gathered information from a number of kind of similar kind of context communities as White Bear Lake. We've also looked at some professional planning resources and gathered some data on best practices and how to set up your system and those kind of things. So we have been preparing to bring more information back to the council on that.
And do you have a sense of, like, is that a late 26, middle 26 kind of, I'm just trying to get in my head the kind of cycling that we're on for when we might take that conversation up, and the related, how might we then, once we have that information, or if we get that information, what's the regulatory stance on short-term rentals?
Yeah, Mayor, members of the council, so I would say that staff is prepared to bring that information back to you in the first half of this year. The timing of it, I would want to discuss a little bit more closely with the city manager because what we're really doing here is, you may remember that when we did the zoning ordinance update, we actually had some standards for short-term rentals that were originally included in the first draft, but the council decided to take out in the final draft, and then directed staff to bring both the the zoning standards and the licensing standards together in one package. So really the process that staff envisions is to put together some recommendations on both zoning and licensing and bring that to the council in a work session to make sure that we're heading in the right policy direction from a council's perspective. And then we'd take the zoning side of it back through Planning Commission, because the zoning ordinance, the Planning Commission has to have a public hearing and vet that zoning side of it. But at least we'd have those two things coordinated and check in with the council first that we're moving in the overall correct policy direction.
So my sense is that no action is even realistic, but probably not even warranted in 2026. Those who own short-term rentals are already renting out space and so forth. So from an economic standpoint, to disrupt that without reasonable notice is probably not something we want to do. But to have something potentially in place for 2027, does that sound like a reasonable expectation, or is that something that we ought to have more conversation about?
Mayor, members of the council, staff is prepared to bring the information to you in the first half of this year. I think it is, noteworthy that kind of most of the vacation part of short-term rentals would be kind of happening in the summer months. You raise a fair point there. So, we can bring you the information again in the first half of the year, and then we would look to the council as to kind of the appropriate implementation point for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, does anyone else have any further questions for Mr. Lindahl? Comments? No? Okay, thanks so much for coming in. Thanks for all your work.
Absolutely.
All right, up next is item 5B. We have the Sports Center Annual Report. For that, we have Mr. Juba.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mayor and
Chuba.
council members. Good evening. We had another great operational year at the Sports Center in 2025. We remain very fortunate to have a dedicated staff and a wonderful community of customers who frequent that place and creates a really good environment there. So the Sports Center serves as the home of White Bear Lake Girls Hockey, the home of White Bear Lake Area Hockey Association, and the city's own figure skating program. Highlights from this past year, you can see them up on the board. 12 high school girls hockey games, 32nd annual figure skating competition, 32nd annual spring ice show. It's amazing that those things have been going as long as they have. 7 youth tournaments and approximately 100 separate youth games. And the youth tournaments and the youth hockey games are all run through the Hockey Association. Facility improvements in 2025 include flooring replacement, which you can imagine is a constant at a place where people are walking around with blades on their feet. So we do quite a bit of that annually to try and keep up on that. Outside of that, you can see the pictures on the wall. I hope you can make sense of that. The one on the left is the White Bear Lake, the second part of the Wall of Tradition. We had last year, I looked back at the slides, and we had the first part done. Now the second part is done. So that's really celebrating all the people that have come up through the Hockey Association, the accomplishments that they've made. So, the Stanley Cup winner is listed on there, a Hobie Baker Award winner, all of the Division I hockey players that have come up through that program. So it's a fun thing to celebrate if you ever get in there. It's a good piece of history to look at. And then the picture on the right is a new plaque this year that celebrates all the high school girl hockey players who have reached 100 career points, which is quite a feat for high school hockey. And so our staff in the hockey and skating community continue to come up with ways to celebrate the traditions and the victories that happen there, and there's a lot of pride. So it's fun to see the different things that they come up year by year. So next time you're in the facility, check that out. It just keeps growing and growing. It's really fun to watch. This year was the second year that the solar panels were up and fully operational, and so far we've achieved a little over $50,000 in energy costs through that program. So it's nice to see that up and running and functioning. Within your packet, there's a revenue summary. Obviously, we won't have a full financial picture of the year until the audit's done with, and we can get more in depth on that at that time if you'd like. But very much from what we can see, it was a normal operational year as far as hours of ice rented and all the things that went on there. So another good year when it comes to that. And then just a plug also, so that this will now be the 33rd annual Spring Ice Show, is April 24th through the 26th. The year's theme is Enchanted Skates, so it's always fun to see what they come up with and what they come up with for a program. It's a great showcase for local talent, as well as all the work that our staff and coaches put into that. And so if the Olympics have you inspired to be more of a skating fan, keep those dates in mind and swing through there. It's always fun, and it's fun to see, like I mentioned earlier, that environment and the community that's created there. It's a happy environment, and people are excited to see their kids showcase all the hard work that they've done. It's a fun thing to be part of. So with that, I can stand for any questions.
That's fantastic. Can I ask what the Live Barn online streaming service is?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor and council members. So Live Barn is an automatic camera system that's in there. It's a subscription system. So people, if they want to tune in to their kids' game or their grandkids' game or whatever it may be, they can sign up for that for a nominal fee, and then they can get in and watch those games live, and the camera follows the movement and gives you an opportunity to see what's going on there.
Oh, that's great. And where do people learn about that? Is it just the coaches tell them that it's available, or?
And yes, Mayor and council members, it's plastered all over the sports center.
Okay.
The ability to get in there, and it's always available on our website as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Juba? Councilmember Edberg.
Just one. Mr. Juba, you said as regards was it $50,000 in energy savings? is that over 2 years or 1 year? And do you have a sense of what the total bill on that is? What's our payback estimate on that? Do we have any sense? Rough math?
Thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Edberg. So that is the total since they've been up and operational. So about $25,000 a year is what it's been yielding. And I think that system costs around $500,000 or $700,000 to install. So
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great. Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Mr. Juba. Thank you for being here. All right, item 6, public hearings. We have nothing scheduled. Item 7, unfinished business. We have no unfinished business scheduled. Item 8A, conditional use permit request at 5045 Division Avenue. We have Mr. Lindahl.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you mentioned, the item before you tonight is a conditional use permit amendment for the high school to add parking in 3 locations on their site. So the slide before you summarizes the application and indicates the 3 locations on the site where the applicant is proposing to expand parking. So again, the property is the high school at 5045 Division. And they're proposing, again, to add it in 3 locations. The Planning Commission reviewed this item at their last meeting and held a public hearing, and there really weren't any comments from the neighborhood on this. The application is before you in a discussion format tonight because both staff recommended approval and so did the Planning Commission, but their vote was 5-2 in favor of recommending approval. And the discussion of the item and the 2 votes against that recommendation for approval really focused around condition 6 in the attached resolution, which focuses on an access point to one of the parking lots that they're proposing. So that'll be the focus of the discussion.